Okay, so I'm going to read chapter 6 of our book. At the end of chapter 5, the children had realised that what they thought was a funny bird sound in the woods seemed to actually be Morse code, and Charlie was able to work out the code, and the message seems to be a storm is coming. We don't know where this message is coming from, who, why, so we're going to carry on with chapter 6. What's that supposed to mean? In the sickly glare of the torch beam, Johnny's expression looks angry and strange, the shadows falling across his face in all the wrong places. I don't know, I say, the same question running through my brain. I'm not the one who sent the message. Sweat drips from my face onto the open page of the exercise book, smudging the letters I've marked there. The air feels almost thick enough to touch, the sweltering heat of the day still trapped beneath the roof of leaves, even though night has now fallen. I reach up to wipe my face with my hand, the bandage now sticky against my forehead. A storm is coming. Dizzy repeats the words softly, almost under his breath, as if weighing the truth in them. You don't want to be in the woods in a storm. Why not? I say, almost wishing that a storm would come to puncture this heat. The trees will keep us dry from the rain. It's not the rain you need to worry about in a storm, Dizzy replies. It's the lightning. He sweeps his torch around so it's now aiming at the tree that lies fallen behind us. The stumps of its broken branches cast eerie shadows as the torch's yellow beam plays across the dead wood, but then on its underside I see a dark scar running along the length of the trunk. It looks like the bark has been torn from the tree here, exposing charred wood underneath. Lightning always strikes the highest point, Dizzy said, and in a wood that's always a tree. I suddenly realise that this blackened crack is a lightning scar. That must be what brought the tree down. Beware the oak, it draws the stroke, Johnny says, his words coming out in a sing-song fashion. Avoid an ash, it courts the flash. Shadows flash across his leering face as Dizzy swings the torch round again. Everyone knows that, especially birds. Frowning, I close the exercise book, stuffing this and the pencil back into Dizzy's bag as I clamber to my feet. I didn't know that. They didn't teach us stupid songs about the countryside at my school in London. Away from the torch beam's dazzling glare, the woods seem even darker than before. I wish I was back there now. It's never this dark in London. So we need to get out of here, I say, holding out my hand for Dizzy's torch. Can I borrow that? Reluctantly, Dizzy hands the torch over. Its metal case feels slick to the touch, but the weight of it in my hand makes me feel just a tiny bit better. With this, I can keep the dark at bay. I sweep the torch around in a circle, trying to work out which way to go. Its fuzzy beam illuminates the trees, sculpting them into leafy statues. Beneath their tangled limbs, several narrow tracks head off in different directions, each one trailing into the same inky dimness. So which way do we go? Johnny says. I don't know. The torch beam wavers as I try to trace each trail through the trees, trying to decide which track to choose. I can see the broken branch where Johnny pushed his way out of the trees. No chance of finding the path that way if what he said is true. And no point in climbing over the lightning-scarred trunk to head back the way we came. I hold the torch steady, its yellow light falling along a narrow track that lies halfway between the two. This crooked trail looks the same as all the others, wildflowers and ferns sprouting in the leaf litter as it winds between the trees. Perhaps it's my imagination, but the torch beam seems to shine a little brighter here. Maybe that's a sign? This way, I say, trying to make my voice sound more certain than I am. Follow me. Striding forward, I start to make my way along the trail. Behind me, I hear Dizzy and Johnny hurrying to catch up. Wait for us. The track is so narrow we have to walk in single file, the spaces between the trees completely shut in by the surrounding undergrowth. I can hear faint rustling sounds, the tread of tiny unseen creatures scurrying for cover as we pass. I keep my eyes fixed on the yellow beam of light as it splashes along the track, illuminating the exposed tree roots lying in wait to trip me up. I step over these, brushing past an overhanging branch that reaches out to bar the way. "Watch out," Dizzy shouts as the branch snaps back behind me. "Sorry," I call back. There's not much I can do as I have to push my way past another low branch, its bark rough against my fingers. In the yellow light thrown by the torch, the trees look reassuringly solid, but away from this they melt again into shadow. Dead sticks snap beneath my feet, making my heart skip a beat. I can't help feeling as if someone's watching me. Just out of sight in the trees. I keep my eyes fixed to the ground, so easy now to stumble and fall. In the distance I hear the sound of a sudden bark and freeze, gripping the torch tightly. "Is that a dog?" I say, turning round to find Dizzy right behind me. Maybe someone is out looking for us. Screwing up his eyes, Dizzy flinches as the torchlight shines in his face. "Sorry," I say, quickly lowering the torch. The bark comes again, further away this time. Blinking, Dizzy shakes his head. "No," he says, "that's a fox." Dizzy's reply snuffs out the flicker of hope that had sparked inside my chest. There's no search party out there. Nobody even knows where we are. I grip the torch more tightly as I turn to push on again. All we can do is keep following this track. Above my head, the twisting branches are close enough to touch, making me feel as though I'm tunnelling through the woods. As I walk, the wavering torch beam drives the darkness back foot by foot. I only hope that I'll find light at the end of this tunnel. "What makes you think this is the right way?" Johnny calls out as the track begins to twist. I don't know, so I pretend I haven't heard him. As I duck beneath another low branch, the track begins to narrow again as it turns left and then sharply right. I feel as though I'm being squeezed as the trees crowd ever closer. Then the path turns sharply left again and suddenly opens out into a small clearing. "What is it? Have you found the path?" Dizzy and Johnny's questions trail into silence as they join me in the clearing. I sweep the torch beam around the circle of trees, the bushes and thickets between these forming an impenetrable wall. There's no way forward. There's no way out. It's a dead end. "I thought you said this was the right way," Johnny explodes, his anger as hot as the sweltering air. I take a step back, the glow of the torch catching a glimmer of white on the ground. "What's that?" Stepping forward, I aim the torch beam down, Dizzy and Johnny crowding round to see what I've found. There are dozens of sticks laid out on the ground. Some are pointing like arrows in different directions. Others are set at right angles or angled into squares. But every single stick is smooth and white, the bark stripped off each one. I'll show you what it looks like. So that's what the sticks, what they found. Okay. I look up at Johnny, a fresh surge of anger rising in my chest. "You left these here," I say, the torch in my hand shaking as I fight the urge to hit Johnny with it. "You're trying to trick us again." But Johnny's face is deathly pale as he stares down at the sticks on the ground. "I didn't," he says, his voice barely louder than a whisper. "I wouldn't dare. I swear. This stuff is secret." "What do you mean, secret?" I ask, reluctant to believe a word that Johnny says. Johnny shakes his head. "I can't tell you. My dad would murder me if I did." "What's your dad got to do with this?" I glance down again at the sticks on the ground, noticing for the first time the smooth white pebbles that are placed between some of them. "Your dad's a butcher, not some spy leaving secret messages." Dizzy crouches down next to the sticks, his notebook open again as he starts to sketch the symbols. But before he's even finished the first line, Johnny snatches the book out of his hand. "Hey!" "My dad's not just a butcher," Johnny growls, ripping the page from the book and screwing it up in his fist. "He's a Freemason, and this stuff is secret." Beneath the sweat-soaked bandage, my head aches. I'm so mad at Johnny now. All I want to do is find the way home, but he's more bothered about keeping secrets. "It's the only clue we've got," I say, keeping the torch trained on the strange symbols on the ground. "We're lost in the woods, and this might help us to find a way out. If you know what it means, then you've got to tell us." Still holding his pencil in his hand, Dizzy climbs to his feet. The three of us stand in the small circle of light that's reflecting off the ground. But beyond this, the darkness surrounds us. Please, Johnny, Dizzy's voice cuts through the gloom. I just want to get home. Don't you? Johnny looks from Dizzy to me and then back again. The shadows cast across his face fall upwards, almost making it look as if I can see the skull beneath his skin. Okay, he says, reaching out to take the pencil from Dizzy. But if you tell anyone that I showed you this, I'll kill you. Okay, so we'll have to come back next time for chapter 7 on what they think this message says.